stream, how usual, and then each one youth leaders present here will be asking a question. Okay, perfect. So thank you for starting the live stream, and thank you everyone for being here today. Welcome to the POP Climate Leadership Conversations, a tribute to our chief mentor. This project aims to strengthen youth leadership and explore tactics that empower the youth to take action and tackle the most pressing environmental issues we are faced today. We are conducting a series of conversations on leadership strategies, recommendations, reflections, and examples, each focused on a global leadership and a different pressing environmental issue. This initiative is designed and implemented as a tribute to our chief mentor, late Dr. R.K. Pachauri. And today we are very excited to have a young environmental activist here with us today, Ms. Cherry Sung. And I will go ahead and read her bio, so everyone who's listening in either via YouTube or who's watching here with us on the Zoom can know a little bit more about our guest today. Cherry Sung is from South Korea and she's 17 years old. And she's a young environmental activist recognized globally as the winner of the 2020 Global Social Leaders Global Goals Competition recipient of the 2021 Youth Leaders Award and the 2021 International Young Eco Hero. In 2018, she also founded Greener is Cleaner, a youth-led non-profit organization that leads by example to empower youth worldwide to take action for the environment and the futures. Impacting over 15,000 youths since then through hosting conferences and campaigns and speaking at events, writing articles, papers, lobbying for the government, and meeting politicians and creating environmental educational contents. She has tackled issues such as climate change, climate justice, youth involvement in decision-making, biodiversity, pollution, carbon tax, the energy transition, and more. Cherry is also actively engaged in local efforts as the chairperson of the Ministry of Environment's National and Environmental Education Center, Youth Council, and as a volunteer at Greenpeace Korea. Thank you so much for joining us, and I would like to hand it over to Dr. Norma, who will be asking the first question for today.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, Cherry. Nice to meet you today. We are very happy to have you with us, and I would like to answer this small question, but this is very important for youth and for us too. What leadership means to you, Cherry, please?
Thank you, Doctor, for the question. And I'm really happy to talk about leadership here in the circle. Well, in my opinion, I think leadership is about embracing others and bringing the best out of others in the members of the group that you're leading. And I also think it's about providing guidance instead of only managing or pulling on the members. And in my experience as a member, not a leader, so like being led by a leader was someone who brings the common goal together. And what I mean by this is that there's this vision that members and the leader share, and the leader had the role of making sure that the members are aware of this and they're on the same boat. And by doing this, the members can work even more efficiently because they're working towards a target goal, and they can cooperate better because they know what others think about and envision. So from this, I learned the good qualities of a leader, but at the same time, some flaws that a leader can have and some obstacles a leader may face, etc. So right now, as Anna introduced, I'm taking multiple leadership positions, such as being like the executive director of my own international youth-led organization, Greener is Cleaner, and even being part of a Ministry of Environment's Youth Council and more. And there, I feel different power dynamics and different responsibilities. And I think that growing leadership is transformational because by taking these multiple positions, I felt the responsibility on me, and it made me and transformed me into a more organized person and someone who can communicate better. So communication is key in leadership because, as I said, making sure the common goal is spread within the group and embracing others and bringing the best of others all come from leadership. and communication of the leader. So I learned how to communicate better. And I think this is a great strength that I own at the moment. And I'm really proud of growing because when I was young, I struggled with this a lot. So these are some of my thoughts on leadership.
Thank you so very much, Cherry. I think that you practice everything what you said. It's very important for us to know that you embrace people, guide people, you work together with people, and particularly communication is so important to talk to each other, and common goals, of course. Thank you so much for this beautiful meeting and for these beautiful thoughts. And I hope that you would be, the best in the world. And this is an example for you. Thank you so very much. And over to you, Anna, please. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Dr. Norma, for that great question. And thank you, Cherry, for your answer. I absolutely agree with Dr. Norma. I love how you gave us both perspectives of leadership, as you being led by someone else and as you becoming a leader, as you found and as you started this NGO. So thank you for that amazing answer. And for the next question, I would like to hand it over to Happy, who will be asking the second question of the session.
Well, thank you so much. Dear Cherry-san, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm Happy Ndeo, and I wanted to ask you, can you tell us more about your projects and the campaigns, and what inspired you to start those campaigns and projects? And also, would you please share us what have been your main highlights of your work?
Sure, I'd be happy to share them. So I think first of all, I can explain and briefly explain that my campaigns and projects really revolve around environmental education and youth empowerment. And I will first share how I started, like what inspired me to start, because this is quite a long journey, but it's honestly really personal. So, and I love sharing personal stories. So, okay, here we go. When I was 12 years old, so it was 2019, I suffered with an eating disorder called anorexia nervosa. And anorexia nervosa is actually the most fatal mental illness, and therefore it was really difficult to recover. I struggled with it, particularly for over 2 years. And right now I'm fully recovered, but anorexia nervosa and other eating disorders can always reoccur. So that's the downside of it. However, in my recovery stage, the main thing that I did to recover was make myself distracted. Eating disorders are mental illnesses, and therefore they try to control your mind and mental state. Therefore, finding things that I can be distracted with, such as making new hobbies, learning about new topics, were my method of recovery. But at the same time, I loved trying to find out what my illness is, what my monster is inside me. So while finding new hobbies that I can engage with, I also researched a lot of my illness and even made an exhibition out of it. And I made a TED talk about how I am recovering and how opening up to others can help myself. And the biggest thing that I did to distract me was volunteering at Greenpeace Korea. As I said, I have been a volunteer and I'm still a volunteer since 2019. And through this experience, I was able to engage and interact with new people who were really, really passionate about environmental activism. So I saw that spark and was really inspired to get that spark in me. So I continued to volunteer and get more interested in environmental issues, in particular plastic pollution in my country, because that's a big problem. And by starting to research about plastic pollution, I made a website, which I named Greener is Cleaner, to share information with my fellow students at school. But after sharing the website with my friends, they started to involve such issues in their conversations, and I loved seeing that happen. And I wanted to make it and expand that initiative. So I not only confined what I did to plastic pollution and writing articles, but I chose to make a club at my school so that I can do practical stuff, including raising awareness through educational workshops or posters or speaking at assemblies, but at the same time, like going outside of the school and doing cleanups, doing interviews, etc. And then the next step that I took was also individually, but also as Greeners Cleaner organization, reaching out to policymakers and decision makers in my country so that as young people, we can be involved in decision making as well. So I partook in various competitions that I can share and communicate the policies that young people want in local areas. And I also, through competition and application, I was able to take the position of being the chairperson of the Environmental Education Center's Youth Council and resource circulation representative in the Ministry of Environment. By doing these, I felt really empowered because I didn't know at that young age that even though I was young, I can be part of the decision making and help decision makers channel young people's voices. So doing those things continually inspired me to do more. And right now I'm at the stage of making my organization international. I've worked with around 100 people to make educational content, including podcasts, social media posts, YouTube videos, and more. We also hold workshops around 4 times a year, etc. And individually, I focus a lot on environmental education. I started it out by being part of the Ministry of Environment's National Environmental Education Center, but also as an individual, I give a lot of presentations and speeches at events. And accumulatively, I think I've given around 60 or more presentations. And I made a booklet for children, like elementary school students, on environmental issues in South Korea. And I distributed this to 19 international schools in my country. So around 3,000 people have access to it, but it's also available online. So even more people can have access to it. So these are things that I'm working on. And I think the main highlight was actually recently because several months ago, I was invited individually to a meeting with the First Lady in my country. I have met my Minister of Environment, like the different ministers of environment, as they change like several times. I met the former president in another conference, but I've never met the First Lady ever. And recently the government did change, but this was a highlight because I was the youngest person in that meeting, and it was really transformational. And I was proud to represent the youth voices in South Korea and the environmental education field. In that meeting, there were other adults that were talking about different fields of environment, including like biodiversity, plastic pollution, resource circulation, animal rights, etc. And I was there for youth and environmental education. Another thing that made this a highlight is that it was the First Lady, because she was the woman figure in that government that was really interested in bringing environmental conversations in my country. So I was inspired to hear about what she is doing alongside the current president to bring out different environmental fields and make them more efficient in our country. So I got to not only explain what I'm doing in Greeners Cleaner and on my environmental education work, but also just individually as a student, what I'm experiencing, like what are the challenges about working as a youth activist, etc.
Thank you, Cherry, for that amazing for that amazing answer. I loved hearing about how you got involved in the beginning in environmental topics and how you got interested in them. And congratulations for everything you've achieved since then, including meeting the first lady of your country. I think that's such a great achievement. Happy, I don't know if you would like also to add something.
Yeah, I have to thank Cherry for a wonderful explanation. I would rather congratulate her for the great work. And yeah, if possible, you may share some of those. You have said you have got an online platform. You may share separately that link so that we can also be able to learn from you more. Thank you so much, Cherry.
Thank you, Happy, for that great comment. I completely agree. Cherry, if you could share your website or any other material with us, either via the Zoom chat or through email, we would love to distribute it and read through it. Thank you so much. I would now like to hand it over to Manish Gupta, who will be helping us to ask you the third question of the session.
Hello, Cherry. So my question is, what have been some of the main challenges in your work and how did you overcome them?
Thank you for the question. I think so I did face several challenges and they were different along the way. I think a common challenge among like youth activists is probably like eco anxiety, being anxious if what we're doing is actually worth it. So, and the time is ticking and the issues are getting worse and worse. So I think that is one that I did face in the beginning stage of my activism, but these days I rather feel more empowered because as I'm working with more people, I get more positivity and we share and help each other. So that's one thing that I've faced as a challenge, but at the same time, I'm working to overcome it. Another thing is superficiality. And what I mean by this is that as young people, sometimes we feel that what we can do is really limited and restricted because of our age. However, I do think it is true to some extent because we manage our academics and schoolwork with what we're doing for the environment. So there is some limit to in that sense, but also like we can't have certain jobs or positions because of our age. That's just the standard and what is set by others in society, by adults. So those are some things that kind of limit and demotivate us. But again, some things to consider and ways to overcome these are number one, make opportunities for yourself. Like I honestly think that I take as much opportunity that I can as a young person. As I said, even though I felt that as a young person, what can I do? What can isn't what I can do just confined to my local society, but I applied and took part in competitions to get positions where I can communicate with those in the government and be part of that decision making even. So I think taking as many opportunities is one thing that you can do, and also talking to really close adults, like it can be your teacher, it can be anyone in your family, to get support, because I think cooperation is important, because youth activism doesn't mean young people working with young people. Instead, I think is trying to get the cooperation and make young people be part of other activism groups. So communicating with adults is another way to get it through. And another challenge I face is similar to the one I talked about in eco anxiety and how young people feel that we're restricted, is facing burnouts. Obviously, like if we're really passionate, and at one point we're so passionate to make one goal, to achieve a certain one goal. And at that time, I sometimes feel burnt out because there are exams coming up, there are other extracurriculars, and youth activism and for the environment is just one passion that I have. And sometimes if this passion gets more prioritized over everything else, you may feel burnt out because this, like, through personality, some people might really want to have many things on their plate. And this might be overwhelming. And if not much practice is done, this can lead to really significant damages in your mental and physical health. And I really experienced this when I once had to go to the hospital, not because of anorexia, but just feeling burnt down and really exhausted. I had to get some medications in order to feel like physically better and more healthy. So I realized at that point that I have to do more balancing, and there is better solutions. And it gave me some reflection time about where I can go, how sustainable my activism will be if I don't take care of for myself. So I learned that taking care of yourself is really important at that point, and that if I don't take care of myself, my activism will be unsustainable. And like environmental sustainability, sustainability in your activism is also really important. So those were some challenges and how I overcome them.
Thank you so much, and I congratulate to you for the success.
You.
Thank you so much, Cherry. I think you really helped us understand the different challenges and how to overcome them in a very clear way. I like how you did like challenge and how to overcome them. And I think this is a great guide, not only for youth leaders, but for any environmental leader out there. I think the challenges you mentioned are faced by a lot of people, and the tactics that you've employed to overcome them are really good for everyone to hear. I would now like to hand it over to Komal, who will be asking the fourth question.
Thank you, Anna. First of all, thank you, Cherry, for joining us for this conversation, and you are an inspiration to all of us. So, as you know that we have so many young people who have joined us during this conversation, and there are many people who are watching this conversation via YouTube Live. So, I would want to ask you, what would be your recommendations to the young people who are watching you now or who will watch you later, and who would want to be the climate activist in future? How can they start their journey? What would be your suggestions and what would be your advice to them?
So whenever I'm asked such questions, my answer would be this. I would give this formula. So combine what you like doing, what you're good at, and what the world needs. So by finding these three and finding that intersection in the middle, I think you can find the thing that you are not only passionate about, but also you're capable of doing and would find most success in. And I also did that when I'm like making projects for my organization. And I feel that by doing this, I feel most fulfilled and successful. So this is something that I would suggest young people to do, but when finding what the world needs or what your local society needs, you have to research really carefully, because sometimes doing too much research may lead you like to another path because it may overwhelm you. But if you do like really specific research and actually feel and go outside and observe the issues that your local society is facing, I think that it will be really helpful to clearly see what the world needs from you. And I know that many people are scared about starting their first step because they're like scared for being alone, for example, or being ignored, being judged by other people. But I think that that goes away as time passes. If you sustainably do that, I think it is part of your identity and something to be proud of instead of something that you are scared of being judged about. Because after all, what I learned from doing these stuff for like 4 years is that if you do it sustainably and if you're really authentic to what you're doing, people won't judge you. Instead, they will respect you and be more interested in joining you on the path. And by doing that, and as an individual change maker, even that is being an inspiration to others. So I think my advice is to not be scared and use the formula that I first shared.
Great. Thank you so much, Cherry. Over to you now.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I love the formula that you give, because I think it's such a clear way to think about how you can make a difference, but in a way that you can help where you are most needed and where you're doing something that you like and that you're good at. So thank you for that recommendation. And our final question is, if you could ask the world leaders one thing, what would you ask of them?
In the short version, I will ask them to be compassionate. However, there's a bigger meaning behind just that, because being compassionate means that you are taking into consideration and taking care of others and not just yourself. So basically not being selfish. And I want to ask the world and world leaders about this, because essentially, as a generation, you're passing on the environment and the earth to the next generation, the earth that you lived in. But if you pass on the type of environment that you were able to enjoy, but you damaged it to the next generation, how fair is that? And how compassionate is that? Because in that case, you're causing an issue that you're not like cleaning up for, and then just being irresponsible about that. So I think that that is not compassionate, and that is just labeling yourself as such person. And I don't think that it will, I think that it goes against your ego and your self-respect even. So I think a question is that, what type of generation do you want to be known for? Like, by the younger generations, like even those that are not even born yet, they want to be known as, they want to be labeled as a greedy generation, not compassionate generation, like disrespectful generation. So by considering that, I think the world leaders should consider the legacy that they're leaving behind and how much self-respect they have in regards to the earth that they will be passing on to others. So yeah, there are so many things that world leaders can do in terms of policy, awareness, mobilization, etc. But I think that would be too broad. So this is just what I want to ask.
Thank you, Churi. I think that's a great question to ask, because as you say, being compassionate encompasses so many different things, right? Like, if you want to be compassionate, you need to think about not only the people who are living right now, but the people who are gonna be born in the future, or the people who live in faraway places that are very affected by climate change right now. So I think your question and your request for them would be spot on, because I think it really would get them to make many different changes. So those were our 5 questions for this session. I just want to thank you again for giving all of these amazing answers and giving us an insight to the work you're doing and the different challenges you've overcome and how you are growing from these challenges. We are very excited to have had this conversation with you. And I also want to thank everyone who's here with us and who asked Sherry a question. Thank you so much for participating in this leadership conversation. Sherry, as you know, this conversation is part of an initiative that we are partaking in order to increase capacities and learn for the youth to learn more about leadership from different aspects. You're one of the first youth activists that we have interviewed specifically on youth activism, and I really, really can't thank you enough for the amazing answers you have given. You've been doing and you keep doing every single day. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for inviting me, and I'm really excited to see the different impact that this would make too.
Thank you, Cherry, and thank you everyone again. It was an amazing conversation. Oh, and thank you. Oh, I see that you've sent the link tree through the chat. greener is cleaner. So we can see your initiatives there. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Cherry. Congratulations for your leadership.
Absolutely
Thank you so
brilliant.
much. Yes, you're right.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day and night.
Cherry.
Thank
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Beautiful day. God
Bye.
bless. Bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.